Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about the latest blistering opinion going against Rudy Giuliani, who now will have to have a jury trial starting in 1 week in the defamation case brought by Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, the Georgia election workers whom he defamed blatantly, scurrilously, brazenly. All right. 2 years ago, Freeman and Moss brought this lawsuit because, recall, in the aftermath of the election, in classic Giuliani, sloppy, complete dishonest form. This is part of what he did in the famous Four Seasons landscaping press conference, but also goes down to Georgia and just completely accuses them of having a whole suitcase full of ballots, and there's some videotape, and he suggests they're taking drugs, and just complete and tawdry lies that Trump picks up on. And you recall some very effective testimony by Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss before the January 6th committee about how their lives had been completely upended. Again, where Trump goes, bedlam and total upending of lives follows. And these two poor women, who it was completely inaccurate, and was clear, no, this is when it was all completely kosher and on the up and up. They showed that plainly. It was blatant lies, and their lies had been turned upside down. All right, they sued Giuliani 2 years ago for defamation in D.C., and he has been the absolute model of the asshole, incorrigible defendant who has just flouted and violated order after order after order, and in particular, who's been ordered and then sanctioned to provide financial information, which they have a right to have, including for purposes of punitive damages, so that they can show, a jury or fact finder can determine what are the appropriate damages here. And maybe because he has some money socked away that he doesn't want people to know about, but doesn't want to commit another crime of perjury. Or maybe because he's got no money, doesn't have two dimes to rub together, and he doesn't want people to know that. Giuliani, he's been absolutely squirrely at best for a few years about this, and nowhere more so than this case, where finally the judge, Beryl Howell, remember her? She was the chief judge until pretty recently. And in that role, she issued a number of really forceful but fine opinions, all of which were upheld. She's the judge who has this Giuliani defamation case. Anyway, recall, Giuliani also has been sued now by, I think, 2 sets of lawyers. He's just been a complete deadbeat. His lavish apartment is on the block. So the evidence seems to point toward being absolutely broke. But maybe there's a secret stash somewhere that he's trying to protect. Anyway, he violated the orders so brazenly, so repeatedly, that at least that was one factor. After she said, "Now I mean it, here are sanctions," and he just completely thumbs his nose at the court, in part as sanctions for that absolute complete discovery violations, but for other reasons as well. Judge Howell has ruled, this is similar to what's going on in the fraud trial. The liability part of the Moss Freeman defamation case has been established. It's clear that what he said was false, and he knew it or was reckless about it, and therefore he is guilty of defamation. And the only thing to determine in this trial next week it will be the amount of damages. Now, after that was held, pretrial motions went on. The deadline for them was, I think, October. Giuliani submitted nothing. And then a week ago, submitted a 1.5-page piece of, without argument at all, a 1.5-page little statement that all of a sudden said he opposes having a jury trial. And that's the immediate context of the blistering opinion that Judge Howell issued last night, Sunday night. So pretrial motions have long since passed. He, ignored them, did nothing, and then comes in and says, I don't want a jury trial. And if you're him, you don't want a jury trial. A jury's going to punish him, and, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But I think you can anticipate a big verdict against him, including, he looks so bad. He's such a, an asshole, overdog as against, this 62-year-old election worker and her niece who were had their lives turned upside down, that I think a jury is likely to really, ask, how much can we give? Now, there was an interesting legal issue here. The Seventh Amendment guarantees a right to jury trial, and that means you get a right to a jury trial in the kinds of cases that you've got jury trials for at common law, back in England. So the Seventh Amendment preserves what existed. There are other newfangled kinds of cases, Social Security, relief, for example, that didn't exist back then. And you don't have a right to a jury trial, but you have a right to a jury trial for the suits that existed then. Defamation is one of them. However, remember, defamation's already been decided here. And so the question, Giuliani barely brought it up, but Hal went through it in detail, is whether that right to, whether Moss and Freeman still have a right to jury trial when it's not really a defamation case any longer. And Hal, the blistering opinion here, the one that she takes the very curt, unreasoned submission and way late submission by Giuliani, all of which, by the way, seems to fit the hypothesis of no money, right? That he's, he gets some lawyer to put in, or I don't know, a friend who's a law student, whatever, to just write up this very ineffective piece of paper and put it in. Anyway, the judge first spends, half the opinion just totally excoriating him for ignoring deadline after deadline after deadline, and indeed this motion for a new trial. Not for a new trial, for a jury trial comes way after it was due. But she is cautious about it also, and she really bases it then on her own. Oh, she says, okay, let's assume, it's not clear, but let's assume that Moss and Freeman no longer don't have a right to a jury trial. But now there's a question of my discretion to deny Giuliani's motion to not have a jury trial. And she goes through all these factors, including they've been preparing for one for 2 years. He comes in a week before and says, no, don't do it. It would prejudice them. Moreover, there are factual issues that he's going to contest. It's clear. So there's some testimony. That's the classic role for a jury and the like. So she decides, but based on not the constitutional analysis, but a sort of inherent judicial power analysis, that there should be a jury trial in this case. And so now there you have it. I mean, he has tried to delay, escape reckoning, and in particular say nothing about his finances for all this time. And he can keep to that strategy, but a jury can just totally punish him for it. So starting in a week, there's going to be a trial with some evidence, but it's all about how much damage does Giuliani have to pay, and my prediction would be a lot. But the the complete fall from the heavens to the deepest depths of Giuliani just continues. You read this opinion from Beryl Howell, and he's just portrayed fairly accurately as being an absolute scofflaw, who just gives not one whit for law and the rule of law and the thing that he staked his reputation on before. So it's all part of what the hell happened to Rudy Giuliani, and man, he's gone from glory to ignominy, and this is a big part. So no judge trial for Giuliani, instead jury trial for Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss against him, and the possibility of a very big verdict indeed, including punitive damages in the trial that starts a week from today. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.